Please briefly summarize your industry education and professional background.
Okay, so I'm an environmental engineer. I have a graduation, a MSc, and a master's, and also a PhD, all in environmental engineering in Lisbon University. So basically, that's my education on environmental and sustainability.
Okay, so then what is your role at Bentley Systems?
So my current role on Bentley Systems, I'm director of ESDG, which is Empowering Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a role that is, I would say, innovative in the title, because it's a bit different from the regular sustainability roles. So there are three aspects that are important for this role. One is basically help the company, supporting the company on improving the culture of sustainability inside the company, so that colleagues are better prepared to the challenges they face in every day, but also in the next decades to come. The other aspect is about bridging the gap between user needs and ambitions in terms of sustainability and environment, and how the company responds, our products responds to those needs and ambitions. So we want to bridge that gap so that we align with their needs, so that's part of what we work in terms of collaborating between product strategy and users user ambitions. The third part of this role is mostly evangelizing what our users are doing. It's much more highlighting the great stories from our users in terms of sustainability and sustainable development goals, and how they provide innovative aspects for sustainability across the industry. So that's what we try to do here.
Okay, I think you described nicely what your role as ESDG is, but how would you say that it's different from other like ESG roles that are out there? I think it sounds like it's more about talking about other people's sustainability, but do you also focus on any of Bentley's own in-house sustainability, and what do you hope to accomplish in this role?
So ESDG is, as a matter of fact, is a play between two acronyms, right? So the ESG, environmental, social, and governance, which is an imperative for all organizations, independently of their sector, or their industry, or their role. All companies are adopting strategies, internal strategies, to reduce their footprint, to increase the way they approach the business, and that's imperative for us and for any single company. It also involves a lot of compliancy, lots of aspects that directly link to legal and to investor relations and things like that. But then there's another acronym, which is SDGs, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is indeed a blueprint for any organization in terms of what they should do and how they can do something, or what they need to achieve in the future. So it's really our 17 outcomes and objectives that are available for us to address. And so when we mix ESG with SDG, we call it ESDG, Empowering Sustainable Development Goals. Also because Bentley, as a software development company, our footprint, our carbon footprint and environmental impact is relatively low compared with heavy industries and other sectors. But there's indeed a very important responsibility and role for Bentley to support other organizations in terms of reducing their impacts and do something in terms of sustainability. So it's what we call the handprint, if you want. So if you think of aspects of carbon footprint in terms of ESG, in many cases, when we talk about ESDG, there's a big and strong focus on increasing the handprint. So how can we support others to reduce impacts and also to achieve their ESG milestones? So that's what's all about ESDG. What we are trying to achieve with ESDG, to support others on making the best of on acceleration for their sustainability outcomes, empowered by our solutions.
All right, I think that's a great summary of what Bentley's look is. But how do you personally, like, what are you trying to accomplish in your role?
As I mentioned, those three aspects I mentioned to you, they are interconnected. The aspect of building a better culture inside the company, so that colleagues are better prepared to develop products and to support users on their solutions. Of course, that's one of the aspects. I also want to make sure that that the industry and my peers and all stakeholders, they understand the value and how important it is to align digital transformation with sustainability, with sustainable transition that we are trying to do. And of course we want to prepare the company and to be more climate proof and future proof in terms of what is the future. We are a company, and of course we want to make sure that our purpose and our mission is totally aligned and prepared for the challenges the world is facing now and is going to face in the future. So that's why we say that empowering sustainable development goals is one of the most strategic priorities for us for the next decade. So our products need to keep evolving, need to address the needs from users, and ultimately we will come out with a business that most of our revenues will come from ESDG outcomes, from solutions that are empowering sustainable development goals. That's the ultimate outcome.
So I saw that you recently participated in an expert panel discussion at Environmental Analysts Global Business Summit in Chicago. Can you tell me a little bit about the event and what you discussed? Did you learn something new while you were there?
Yeah, it was a very interesting event because that was the opportunity to link with other experts. More than 150. I think the numbers are around 160 sustainability leaders and experts in different areas like engineering, investment, leaders from governmental areas too. And it was really interesting to go into discussion with them. We participate in many events, and in many cases, they might focus on a specific industry or sector. In this case, we were seeing multiple sectors from different areas: energy, water, cities. So many aspects were discussed there. But there were some interesting takeaways from that meeting. First of all, I think there was a good sense, a good confidence and positive energy among the sustainability experts. I think this is an evolution from what we have seen in the past. So this has been changing in the last couple of years, where we see more we see organizations that are prioritizing sustainability and bringing more aspects related with sustainability into their strategic decisions. So that's really important, and we see that my peers were saying that they are becoming more relevant. In the past, we were kind of claiming that we need to put more investment and put more priorities on sustainability. Now it's the opposite. It's like everyone is putting pressure on sustainability experts that, well, now we need to accelerate. We need to do this in a most efficient way, so to address all these needs. So that was one point. There were also two other aspects that I think were really important from this meeting. One was the fact that we saw several colleagues pointing that innovation should start with problem statement, not with technology. It's not relevant. Well, we are in a time where we see lots of discussions about new technologies, right? Like AI or whatever. But the point is that on sustainability, what we see is that there's a clear consensus that we should prioritize, we should focus on the problem, and then the rest will fall into place. Technology will allow us to accelerate the problem that has been identified. So we really need to identify the problem correctly, understand the problem, and only after that we can start seeing how technology will help. The other thing that I took note from the meeting is there's a disconnection between digital teams, if you want, digital leaders from different organizations and engineering companies that have their chief digital officers and other people like that. In many cases, they are disconnected from the sustainability teams. I think this is a big problem that needs to be properly addressed. In many cases, I understand that they are not aware of the projects that are being taken by the different groups, which is a problem because in our view, we think digital transition and sustainable transition, they will need to work together. And I think there's a lot to be done in that part, and we Bentley as a company will try to bridge the gap between those departments.
That's good. But what are some of the specifics you think that you might be able to do to try and bridge those kind of gaps, make those connections?
We need to start by the projects and by the early movers that are taking place already. So we need to take projects that are happening already by some organizations, show them, emphasize how they are achieving results, and then the others will easily understand that. So if you take one organization that is already leveraging solutions like digital twins, for instance, and trying to use a digital twin approach to accelerate, like for instance, reduce environmental footprint or carbon footprint, or increasing the way that water is, reducing water loss, for instance, or increasing energy efficiency. If we show numbers and projects where that come into place, I think it will become evident to other companies that they need to work together, and they need digital teams to work together with sustainability teams so that they accelerate the process of delivering in that sector. I think that's the starting point. Start showing, showcasing what others are doing, and from that part, I think we have a responsibility there that we expect to take part on it.
How can infrastructure engineers help integrate sustainability and resilience into project development and delivery? So what advice would you give them?
First of all, I think there's a big challenge around organizations right now on sustainability or in engineering, which is the fact that more and more projects are related with sustainability outcomes. Investment is increasing significantly in terms of sustainability. Sustainable infrastructure is becoming the new trend. Investment is exploding. The number of projects are increasing, but there's no enough human resources to address all these challenges if we keep the same approach. So we need to have a different approach to do it. We need to be more efficient. We need to be more effective on how we address it, right? So that's one important aspect, and I think to do it, organizations need to find sustainability as a way to accelerate the process of decision in many cases. So if don't think on sustainability should not be addressed in a way that is like a compartment or a silo. It needs to be part of any kind of project or infrastructure. So if you're building or operating a water utility, for instance, you need to understand that if you're more efficient in many ways, you will reduce costs, you will reduce time, but you also reduce environmental footprint. And so sustainability goes hand in hand with all these challenges. And with the reduced amount of human resources there, it's really important that projects and project delivery and project the way that you manage projects has more efficiency and more effectiveness. So you need to do more with less. It's really important. How can you do more with less? You know, everyone wants to achieve that. So how can we help others doing more with less? We think that a very important part is that you have an open approach, a collaborative approach, that you bring technology that is able to aggregate data from multiple vendors, from multiple formats, from multiple data. So that's what we have with our infrastructure digital twin platform. We try to collate or to aggregate data and federate data from multiple vendors. So if you have a large infrastructure project, you bring all together into a way that you can manage the data in a way that is interoperable as much as possible. So you're not depending on one specific vendor. You will make sure that you're not locked in a specific vendor. And since infrastructure projects will stay with us 60 years or 80 years or whatever, you want to make sure that the data that you manage is a way that will stay with you since the early stages of life cycle projects till the end of life. So digital twins are the best way to do, but with a platform that is open and collaborative. So those are just some ideas that I think are really important to take into consideration. You know, so I think that's really important. So an open approach, collaborative approach. Take that into consideration, and don't see sustainability as a silo. Any kind of project should take sustainability as objective and challenge. Everyone needs to challenge themselves in terms of what can be done to be more sustainable and resilient, and not just oh, that's for the sustainability team, so they will deal with it and we don't deal with it. No, it has to be different. You know, the ultimate outcome for a chief sustainability officer would be to disappear in a couple of years or 5 years, so they would not be needed because sustainability would be everywhere. You know, that would be the ultimate outcome for sustainability. It should be everywhere, not just on a department.
So now can you tell me a little bit about Bentley's new product strategy for supporting carbon footprint reporting and assessment in infrastructure projects? What are its most useful capabilities for engineers and designers?
I've been discussing, you know, double transition, which is, you know, bringing sustainability and digital transition all together. And I think the strategy for carbon footprint reporting and assessment is part of that integration. It's mostly about that. So we are seeing there's as I mentioned, an increasing number of projects where carbon reporting is needed, is a kind of a regulatory part in many countries. In other countries, if it's not yet something that is demanded, it will be soon demanded. So somehow this needs to be reported. You know, organizations might also want to report carbon because of their ESG reporting framework, or simply because stakeholders are demanding it, so they want to disclosure what is being generated. But then for engineers, you know, they can report, indeed, they can help reporting, but they can also start thinking on how can they reduce carbon. But let's start by reporting. You know, if you're in an engineering company, you can take like 5 or 6 months to conclude one carbon report for a big infrastructure project. This is, you know, this is, I would say, bread and butter for infrastructure project, for engineering companies. They spend weeks, months, in many cases, half a year to deliver a carbon footprint report for an infrastructure project. Why? Because, you know, if you're managing a big infrastructure project, a complex one, you will need to handle multiple data from multiple sources, from multiple tools. And then you need to understand, okay, so I have these materials, and then you need to quantify what's the volume quantities for each specific material that you use. So it's not an easy task. You might have to deal with many spreadsheets and calculations to aggregate all that information. You spend a lot of time aggregating, and once you aggregate, you need to validate and put it in a format that is consumable or digested by an external party, which will make the carbon calculation based on your bill of quantities, if you want. So this is tremendously challenging in terms of time consuming. And okay, 6 months. Now, with the increasing number of projects on this area, is this sustainable? Is this possible? How can you scale up this when you don't have human resources to hire and to do more of these studies? So the only way is to be more efficient on how you do it. So the technology that we are releasing here is a way of, instead of spending 6 months, it's to spend like 10 to 20 minutes on deliver carbon reporting, because we are facilitating the way of aggregating the data around carbon, around materials that are used in an infrastructure project. So then we leverage iTwin platform as a way as a platform to aggregate information. Then we facilitate the bill of quantities calculation, because we automate the process of quantifying volumes and grouping and categorizing these. And then we have a workflow with third-party organizations, in this case with EC3 tool from Building Transparency, where we are able to calculate carbon based on our bill of quantities. And then we can also do the opposite thing, which is, okay, we calculate carbon reporting, and then we bring that information again to our own ecosystem so that you can visualize carbon in 3D, in the digital model, and then identify hotspots and see what you can do differently to start reducing carbon. So it's not just about reporting, it's also about optimizing the carbon reporting. So that's what we are trying to do. So if you ask, so what is different now on what we are bringing, what's the value from what we have here? So you save time on carbon footprint reporting, as I mentioned to you. You are able to aggregate information from multiple data sources that you use in your infrastructure project, and so by aggregating it, you make it much more accurate as well. We leverage partnership, which is also important with external vendors, because they are already working on carbon calculations. So let's take what they have done in terms of standardizing of green certification, validation, all that, and bring that knowledge on a partnership with what we can deliver in terms of digital twin platform and infrastructure models, right? So, and then you don't need to code anything, because what we are releasing now, it's an early adoption program still, but it means you don't have to code. You can use it as it is. It's ready to use, ready to consume, as long as you have a digital twin model or an infrastructure model that is able to bring to our platform. You're able to calculate carbon on it, and you don't need to code anything. That's the main difference right now with iTwin Experience early adoption program.
So how seriously does the world and its developers need to take carbon assessment and other sustainability approaches? I know the gap is narrowing, but how large is the difference between current attitudes and what is needed?
This is changing every year, right? So we start discussing this several decades ago, that climate is changing. The things are changing in many ways, not just in climate, but also in industries, in the way we work, the way we relate with each other. Things are always changing, but things are changing faster today than 10 years ago. So what we know is that there are very ambitious plans on investment for what we say for sustainable infrastructure, or also called green capex, if you want. Huge investments. You know, I'm not going to bring numbers here, but the fact is that this is exponential. This decade, the investment is going to increase every year, every single year till to 2030 in terms of infrastructure. Now, that aspect is really important. But the fact is that there's still a gap between what will be the plans for investment with in the US, in the EU, with the EU Green Deal, etc. There's still a gap. So more will need to come in terms of investment. So that's really that's really important. So the first reaction would be to, well, we get overwhelmed, right? So there's so much thing to do, so many things to be done in sustainability that, well, maybe it's not possible. Would be the first reaction. Well, there's a lot of things we can do, and we can start by very small steps. But I think this is very important, because we see every year more impacts on climate change, more climate change effects every year. So if we don't start immediately, what we will see is that our investment in terms of decarbonizing will need probably to increase towards resilience and adaptation, because it means more consequences will start happening in population and communities and environment. So we start seeing, well, we need to decarbonize, and at the same time we need to adapt to what is already changing. So let's start doing as fast as we can, so that we avoid to keep increasing the investment in terms of resilience and adaptation, which we'll need to invest anyway, because change is already happening. And so that's really important. Just to conclude, I think it might be important to, and this is kind of a conclusion from the conversation we had today, which is the fact that, you know, we can be overwhelmed by the many things we need to do, and in many cases we see organizations thinking that we need a silver bullet to sustainability and to climate change. And you think, well, maybe in organizations might thinking on putting a tremendous investment on technologies that are not existing today, so looking for something in the future to solve all problems. And what I think is that we need to start by the low-hanging fruits, by the quick wins that you have in front of us. You know, start addressing some sustainability principles and behaviors, like circularity, like efficiency, even sufficiency, which I think is really important for engineers. Try to advocate to their customers that in many cases they could do more with less, if they are more efficient. And so that's really an important aspect. And then you can think, okay, based on these sustainability levers, bring the technology to help you achieve that. And think that digital twins are a really great accelerator and enabler for bringing those sustainability levers. I think that's a really important aspect. So not just focusing on 10 days ahead on a new technology that will come to us to save the world, and start thinking on what you can do today and now, and what you can use to start acting.